All right, welcome back for another episode of The Voice of Generation Climate, The Voice of Gen Z. Today we have with us Vasudha Mathur, who's an investor with Fireside Ventures, a fund that we have grown to really love, appreciate, and be involved with on multiple levels. Not as an investor, but more as just a partner, helping us out in this climate revolution. Vasudha, it's great to have you with us today. Thank you for being here.
Great, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Vasudha, let's start with how did you find your way into Fireside, and what does building a purposeful brand, purpose-driven brand mean to you?
Sure. So I graduated from college in 2019, and I think like a lot of people, I was extremely confused about what to do. And I actually started working with an oil and gas company called Halliburton.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't expect that. But I was on the tech side. I was a product analyst with a petroleum economic software. And I did UI UX, so revamped the legacy software's UI UX. And I really liked it. I think it was, a good mix of creativity plus thinking through a consumer journey. But I wanted to switch to a smaller environment. So just thinking through startup and VC roles. Started with a tech fund based in Delhi, a small one called World 5, and we were looking mostly at B2B businesses. But I did have interactions with a few consumer businesses, which is when I realized that consumer is just a lot more interesting to me. I think both as, an investor as well as just feeling more relatable to the product, which is when I applied to Fireside, just, to get into consumer investing. And it's been great. I've been here since April. And within Fireside, I look at our fashions vertical. And along with that, of course, I also lead our Value of Good initiative, which is our sustainability initiative. And I've come a long way from the oil and gas company to really realizing what it means to build a sustainable brand, and how we view sustainability within Fireside is not just environment. So we use our ESG framework, and we see sustainability across multiple stakeholders, environment being a big part, of course, but also your customers, your suppliers, your community, your employees, everybody. So we also see how can you be more socially responsible, and that would cover, say, your suppliers or your customers or the community you are in. And of course, governance being the whole pillar of the organization.
In a lot of ways, that's kind of what Generation Climate or Gen Z is. Climate just appropriated this term for people who care for climate or sustainability in some form or the other. And what we realize is it's not any one demography or ethnography. It's more a psychography of people out there. It could be a 5-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 95-year-old.
Right.
Any ethnicity, any geography, but just somebody who cares to do something climate positive or just live more sustainably, right? This is what we started calling Gen Z, because when we integrate clients with a bunch of our brand partners and we see who actually opts in, to declare that, like, yes, I want to have a more sustainable choice, we notice that it's across the spectrum of society, right? And that's why we started calling these people Generation Climate. And it's more like a movement, right? It's people, it's brands, it's enterprises, it's even financial institutions, some governments globally who are part of this, right?
Right.
So I think that's such a cool synergy that the market that we are identifying, or the set of people out there, the psychography we're identifying, is very much in line with what Fireside also identified as the value of good, which is really the value of people in society doing good and demanding better, right?
Right.
And then the brand serving them by doing better.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen such an increase in awareness, and in Gen Z, mostly, like we've seen maybe more in Gen Z or millennial, but like you said, it's really spanning all age groups and all demographics.
Yeah.
So I think consumers they realize the importance of their decisions. So it's not just consumption patterns, but it's also how we talk and what we say that is impacting, essentially, we realize the impact that our decisions have on these really pertinent issues, like let's say climate change, or even like the increasing disparity. And these decisions really translate to the choices we make with the consumer brands. And consumer brands now, like especially new age brands for sure, but even slightly older brands, like we have Nike, Adidas, HUL, they're all like making decisions to giving consumers a choice to choose a more sustainable product.
Yeah, like if you look at Unilever, right, globally, so HUL's parent, they made a commitment that every product of theirs by 2030 will have a true cost label in their product. Every single product, right?
Wow, yeah.
The true cost is not just the economic cost, it's the environmental cost too. So every product, like a shampoo bottle, is going to show you the water footprint, the carbon footprint, the waste footprint, all of it combined, right?
Right.
That's such a phenomenal commitment for a large enterprise to make, and say power to the people, right? Put real information in front of people so that you're not just hiding it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's actually really rewarded by people. That's not only are people starting to ask for it, the Gen Z side is asking for it, but everybody else gets informed when a brand takes that leap and says, hey, I'm going to do this whether you whether you ask for it or not. And because it's the right thing to do, right? It's the value of
definitely. Yeah.
Right? So are there any brands globally that you have grown to really admire? That put people, planet, profit, all three front and center globally, and then we'll talk about India too. So what brands has Vasudha grown to really admire?
Yeah. I think Starbucks is one big example that I really admire. And I think of course, Starbucks is seen as a cool brand and it's built an image for itself. But more recently, I've realized how much of effort and resources go into building that coolness factor that comes with it. And they're definitely people first. I think even their impact on the environment is seen as an impact on people through the farmers they work with and the co-ops they work with. But definitely their initiatives with their employees across the corporate office and the baristas as well is really just super inspiring. And this is replicated across all countries. It's not just, in their home country of the US, even in India. And we can definitely see it when you go to a Starbucks store. They treat you really well. They always have the biggest smile on their face. They treat you like they really respect you. And I think it just trickles down from the management down to the barista and then eventually to the customer. I think that Starbucks is definitely a brand that I really admire.
That's really cool. So the culture of just respect and dignity starts at the top, trickles all the way through, and it reaches consumers, right? It reaches our customers. Yeah.
And I think we've seen that across even within Fireside and the brands we work with. It's always a top-down effort. I think it starts at the tops. At Fireside, we have Kaval, who really started the Value of Good initiative, and that's how it's trickled down and permeated the entire fund. And even with the portfolio companies we've seen it's a founder push that has enabled them to adopt certain responsible business practices.
That's pretty cool. So in India, any particular brands that they don't have to be a Fireside Portco, they could but any brands that you really admire that have taken the triple bottom line PPP approach front and center, and as a result have really thrived, right? Because that is it's not just a new model of business. It's always been the model of business. It's just that somewhere along the way we forgot, right?
Right.
But now it's becoming front and center a priority again, that we have to build sustainably, right?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Not in an exploitative, extractive way, but in harmony with the planet, in harmony with people, right? And then you'll actually get rewarded as a brand for doing so too. So in India, who do you think has taken that mantle?
So I think speaking from our portfolio, and we work very closely with them, so definitely we know a lot more. I would say Slurp Farm is definitely one of the more responsible brands that we've come across. And I think it's just embedded in the business model itself, right? Just using millets as a raw material is inherently better for the environment because it's more resource efficient, but also better for the people who are consuming it. But I think beyond just working with millets, the way they source their millets is more ethical to the farmers because they work with farmers directly, ensuring them a fair wage. Even within their corporate office, they are, pushing for more diversity. They have a fairly diverse workforce right now, but that's one thing that's definitely on their mind, and that's even beyond, I think, gender. And
they're an
they are,
excellent brand. They're a lovely brand. I think
yeah,
people are
definitely.
through and through, right? In how they put people and planet actually first,
Yeah.
and then like great product, and then their consumers happily scream and shout about it too.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've been able to really like create a product that is great. It's not compromising on the taste or the quality at all. And it's at a great price as well. I think they're enabling that choice for that consumer.
Yeah, for sure. So Slurp Farm, in fact, Millet, which is one of their products, is integrated with us thanks to you guys too.
Right.
And yeah, we're really happy to have them as a partner. Who else?
I think even Akshay Kalpa is doing a lot for their farmers and, of course, the animals they work with. And they're doing very well as a business as well. They just raised a huge round. I'm not sure of the exact quantum, but clearly they are, meeting their business goals, meeting like the right unit economics, but also building sustainably. So like ensuring the farmers get a fair wage, feeding their animals organic fodder, which eventually, of course, leads to a better product for the consumer. So I think it all ties to how your inputs and like how you treat the environment to a better product for your consumers.
100%. In fact, there's a journal that I really like, an online blog journal called The Hard Copy. Not sure if you've read it. They do phenomenal case studies on like consumer branding and packaging.
Yeah.
I think you really like it. They
Yeah.
put one out about this company recently, and it's called How Akshay Kalpa Grew Through Word of Mouth.
Really? Okay.
It's not how they take a look at how this mission-led brand is combining commerce and community of upliftment, right? So
Right.
mission-driven with great product and a purpose, community upliftment,
Right.
environmental steward or something, right? And all of them combining together. And people are actually rewarding that. Like we are seeing so many people, a growing set, even in a country like India, right? Where we always just thought, oh, it's price sensitive. That's all people care about, cost, product quality can be whatever. No, people are demanding better product quality.
Yeah.
People are demanding that there is a positive outcome, net benefit to society also as a result, right? That's why
definitely.
brands like Neiman's are thriving.
Yeah,
right?
Neiman's, definitely. That's a great example too. And actually, there's a company called Sid's Farm, and they're also in a similar space to Akshay Kalpa. They crowdfunded $1 million from their customers.
Wow.
So like that really shows like the power of you can have on your customers through a great product that is also ethically and responsibly sourced and made.
Absolutely, it's a movement, man. It's full movement, and I think
definitely.
it's only going to keep growing. So, in the last 10 years, if you have to identify some consumer trends and you try and describe how this value of good from a consumer lens has grown, what behavior have you observed, right? 2013 onward, where did it really start? Like, what do you think people started demanding more of?
Yeah, I think, a big part of it is the awareness that really consumers have now. And it's because we're getting information from so many different places that we talked about that the impact of our decisions, we have not just an impact on us, but maybe like on a global scale, at least like on a local scale. And I think as a result, consumers have become more vocal in asking for, let's say an ethically sourced product or something that can positively impact the environment. And if not a positive impact, at least neutralize your impact, which is where we've seen plastic recycling really picking up, and of course carbon offsets as well. I think definitely the use of social media has been one part of it, right? Like we've seen a lot of consumers talking about their love. I think Badam is one of our brands and they sell primarily globally, like to US and UK. Those are the biggest markets, and they get so much brand love because they are plastic neutral and carbon neutral, and they also contribute a significant portion of their revenues to teach their the tea farmers' children. So I think like the people really appreciate the initiatives that the company has taken to really like be responsible.
Yeah.
And like you said, Akshay Kalpa, you said it grew like word of mouth. I think people are becoming more vocal about what they like and also like about what they don't like.
For sure. Even Mama, one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
Right? I think plants a tree with every order, or there's some initiative they have with Sankalp Taru, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
And I think Mama Earth was like one of the earlier companies, right? Like when it started, it was built on the goodness inside, and it recognized that at the time there were very few baby care products that were toxin free. And I think like that goodness inside trickled down to all of its companies now. So it has like Apologica and Dermaco. It's just become the DNA of the company to have goodness inside.
Yeah, and you nailed it. It's in the DNA. So even our clients, we like to use this line, sustainability in your DNA. Who has it? An individual may have it, a brand may have it, a financial institution may have it, a government or a large enterprise also may have it. So we've talked about individuals, consumer behaviors, we've talked about some brands. And now I want to talk about the financial institution bit, because that's such a powerful lever in society, right? Who enables money to flow can actually really nudge and influence society to move toward a better direction for a cleaner, safer, fairer, better future, right? That's where Fireside really comes in. And I personally admire Fireside a lot. I know the rest of the clients team really does too. I think the main reason is you've really taken that proactive approach to putting out a bat signal, right? And saying, okay, we're in the front row seat, directing capital into consumer brands, but we're also going to influence brands to do better, right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think using the nudge of capital to do better is such a powerful lever. And I think whether it was top down or bottom up, or how that it's become part of that DNA of Fireside, it's really respectable. How do you think that kind of took hold? Describe the purpose of good from within Fireside itself, not just an external bad signal, but internally, what do you guys do?
Right, definitely. I think when Fireside was started, it was really, the mission statement was to give back to the founder and the entrepreneur, and actually even like the larger startup ecosystem. So if you see, we have a lot of material, not just sustainability related, but on our website, we have a program called Fireside Ignite.
Yeah.
And the idea was always knowledge sharing. So I think that was what we were built on. And then, of course, we started our Value of Good program a few years back, when we started by becoming a UNPRI signatory to hold ourselves accountable to being responsible investors. But I think just going back, right, so it was really laid in the DNA. Everything we do it for the community at large. And a big part of this is how we've built our ecosystem internally. And so Value of Good is not just a platform, it's really a way of working. And when we interact with founders, it becomes a part of our conversation very upfront to state what our purpose is, our mission is, and our vision for our portfolio and the larger ecosystem is. And we have been lucky enough to meet a lot of founders who come with this, who are part of Gen Z actually, right? Like they come with a purpose. They want to impact not just their customers, but the community at large. So I think it's part of, and our entire team is really a part of this conversation. So the deal team leads it up front. Yeah. It's a part of our documentation. We have a diligence done. So it's really like ingrained now in our systems and processes, but also in individuals.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of this too. So now, like, I know of several founders who are looking to raise their rounds, first round or second round or whatever, whichever stage they're in. And a lot of them actively want to talk to Fireside because of the vantage point you guys have of on consumer first investing as well as sustainability. Right? I think it's the intersection of those two. And with that, it's definitely, Fireside's got a preferential, it's the first choice, right, for a lot of consumer founders.
Right.
So now, when I have seen the decks of some of the founders who are trying to raise, they actually have a slide or two around the value of good and about how they're aligning people, planet, and profit, right?
Yeah, we love to see that. We love it when it comes up unprompted.
Absolutely. And whether it happened because they wanted to do so themselves, or whether it happened because they expect that you will want to see it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're nudging consumer product companies to just adopt value of good. And
yeah, definitely. Like we realize the impact consumer brands have, right? Like they reach so many people. And also, of course, like FMCG companies and even non-FMCG companies have a huge impact on the environment. I think plastic is a really big thing that
yeah.
we've recognized as a fund is important for us to address. And of course, right now we can't eliminate plastic. That is, maybe not even in the medium term. So we've identified like waste management as a key area of concern for us. And I think FMCG companies do consume a lot of plastic in their packaging.
Yeah, and that kind of goes in line with a learning that we have had and a very clear statement we put out, which is cut what you can, but neutralize what you can't. So as human beings, we're always going to have consumption. Right? It's never going to actually go to zero. It's impossible. So the best we can actually do is to be aware of more sustainable choices. And one, cut our consumption, with more sustainable alternatives. So we can have alternative protein over normal meat, right? We can drive an electric car over a normal internal combustion engine car. We can power our homes with renewable energy over coal power-based energy, right? And like that, we can cut our emissions. We can cut our waste, plastic, dry, electronic, all of it. We can cut down on our water footprint too, right? But there's always going to be a residual balance.
Right.
Hell or high water, there will always be a residual balance. So the first choice is always to cut and have access to cutting solutions. I think that's where I think the value of good also kicks in to say, here are better alternative materials, here's better alternative solutions for products to be designed better. And then whatever the balance is, now plastic neutrality kicks in, or carbon neutrality kicks in, right? So only for the residual amount, because there always will be some. I think it's that combination of two. It's not just, hey, offsets are like the solution. It's what you do to be more sustainable, and then whatever the balance is, for that, offer a choice.
100%, right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we found that to be really, really powerful because people respect that a lot. It's not just like take the shortcut solution and pay for your sins. It's do better, and then whatever is left, let me actually feel good about, paying for it, compensating for it, neutralizing it with choice and transparency. That combination is extremely powerful.
Definitely. I think transparency is a big theme coming up in sustainability now.
100%. Choice and transparency at the rupee and kilogram level, right? Very, very, very important. And we see that the brands that we work with, today we have about 20 consumer brand partners. Each of them gets rewarded for doing so. Not by us, by their user.
Yeah.
The users themselves are saying, hey, like, finally we get a choice. Finally, we're actually being able to like track it.
Yeah.
None of our brands have been accused of greenwashing, which was such a typical pattern and trend back in the day.
Right.
Companies just saying, yeah, we've done it. Trust us. We've done it.
Yeah.
Nobody trusts.
That was a scandal that many companies unfortunately went through.
Yeah.
And I think that those scandals or like those news headlines end up decreasing the trust in the customer's eyes. So when you give them the choice to choose, when you can track what is happening, like Climbs does with that product, or like, for instance, when Mamaearth like geotags the trees, like the customer can see where it is. I think that is what really, the customers appreciate.
Absolutely. And it's going to become more and more for not just a demand, but a default expectation that brands are buying from, they should have great product and they should be doing good.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, okay, so that's Fireside incentivizing brands to do better, but even Fireside as a fund is actually doing really well. For one of your last events, I remember, and for your upcoming event,
yes,
you're making it a carbon neutral event, right?
Yeah.
What prompted you as a fund to do that?
I think we realized we had to walk the talk. We do work very, very heavily with our portfolio companies. We tell them that you need to, maybe change your packaging, whether it's secondary or tertiary, or offset your plastic, whether it's tracking, like whether it's, going for carbon offsets, or whether it's on the social side of hiring people from more diverse backgrounds. We realize that as a fund, even though we are only 25 employees, we still have an impact on the environment, especially during these events that have, let's say, like 200, 500, 1,000 people. And I think this was our way of signaling to I would say, like the community, those around us, that this is extremely important to us. And we as a fund want to show that we care and not just, like tell our portfolio companies, but it comes from our own internal ethos.
Yeah, and it's a very powerful signal to send out. And I don't think you're doing it just to look good.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a fundamental practice now because you guys have been so involved with it, proactively choosing to do it with whatever events you have, right? Without us having to come and chase after you and say, do it. No, it's you guys are actively doing it yourself. And that's just a really, really cool choice to make and signal to put out, even for your portfolio brands.
Yeah, definitely. Right. I think we're also identifying other ways that we can, do better, whether it's, again, environment related. Maybe we could be the first plastic neutral fund, or maybe increase diversity within our team and have just better employee practices. I think this is always on our minds and something that we truly believe in.
Awesome. So within value of good, you have your portfolio companies and then you have your partner companies, right? Who are enabling value of good too. So who are some of the others that Fireside has as partners that, you point your founder companies, your portfolio companies toward when they want to adopt a particular solution? Can you talk about a few of the others too?
Sure. So definitely, as we talked about earlier, plastic is a big area of concern for us because of the amount of packaging. So we partner with Recycle, that
awesome company.
Does waste. Sorry?
Awesome company.
Yeah. They really are. And they've worked with us, with some of our portfolio companies. We're getting integrated, but essentially it's a waste management platform that's again doing it in a very data oriented way and giving consumer brands or any brands they're working with that transparency of where the plastic is going, what's happening to it after it's recycled or reused as well. And of course, they help with the compliance as well. So EPR, which has kicked in for MSME companies, they help with that compliance and the registration as well. So we're trying to work out a portfolio level program with them since we've taken an executive call that this is important to us. And even for companies that aren't mandated to be EPR compliant, we still are working with them to push our companies to be plastic neutral. And as a result, we're able to meet the economies of scale required. I think that ends up being a big problem for our brands since some solutions are a little bit more expensive. And we see the power of the collective of our portfolio coming together, participating with Recycle to, meet that economies of scale, make it cost efficient. And eventually our goal is maybe to even, take it outside to other VC funds with their consumer brands or other VCs and other, just the larger ecosystem to really see the power of the collective. So Recycle is one of the companies we're working with in the environment along with Times. We also, on the social side, we work with Enable India, and they enable hiring of people with disabilities for companies. So I think that some of our companies have been working with them to hire people with disabilities for certain functions that allow for it.
That's phenomenal. In fact, on that note, I remember very early in the day, Blue Dart had set the standard practice of all their last mile frontline package runners would be, I think, deaf, mute. And the entire workforce kind of became deaf, mute.
Oh, interesting.
Where they were enabling so many new livelihoods of people who would otherwise kind of...
Yeah, definitely.
And it was, that business operation just ran super efficient, super beautifully, right? And now they're enabled so many new livelihoods for people who were kind of left out of the workforce. So that's really cool that there's an organization working just on enabling work for people.
Yeah, they're doing great work. Yeah, definitely. And I think even Hatti Kapi, the coffee brand, hires people with disabilities as their employees at the coffee shop. So I think there are a lot of purpose-led companies who are seeing diversity beyond gender. I feel like gender right now is almost table stakes, but I think how can you do better than that?
Yeah. What others?
I think
so you covered environment, you've covered social.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
So in governance, something that we've done is we're working with a company called Sage Sustainability, and because governance is super important for us, especially at the stage where we come in, where companies are still building their businesses and maybe environment is not on the top of their mind. We focus a lot on governance. We've templatized a bunch of policies that we think are important for a company to have. So your code of conduct, supplier code of conduct, data and cybersecurity, and many more. And we're going to be giving them to our portfolio companies just to implement it and make some changes based on the context of their company. And the goal is, once again, to make it open source, to make it available to the larger community to adopt these policies that have been templatized, maybe especially for consumer brands, but all startups in general.
That's really, really cool. And all of this, by the way, has come together into a really cool report that Fireside has put together with Vasudha, Reemsha, and gang. Really putting in a lot of manpower, effort, research into this. It's a value of good report. It's sitting on the Fireside website under the value of good, tab, and it's an awesome read. Highly recommend. Anyone who's listening to this should check it out too.
Definitely, it also has a playbook that we've created for startups from the seed to Series F stage on a very stage-gated approach on what you can implement at each stage to be a truly sustainable and responsible business.
Yeah, and I think the new age companies, the new age as in like starting off in 2023 onward, from the very get-go are choosing to have sustainability in their DNA. So it's not something that comes later on in the journey.
Yeah.
Not like a new Lego block to add on. It's from the very beginning, it's born around that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've realized that it's so much easier to start with that rather than go back and course correct.
Yeah.
It's really important to just embed into the DNA of the business.
Yeah, we have three oral care company brand.
Oh, wow.
Perfora, Spicta, and Habits. And all three are sustainability first companies from day one. It didn't come later in the journey. It actually came from day one for each of them. Right? And that's such a cool trend to observe now, where people are thinking of building companies that just have the triple bottom line in mind. Right?
Yeah,
very
definitely.
Good. The last stakeholder, so we've gone across consumers, brands, financial institutions, and then there's the last one, right? The government too. And they have a really big role and responsibility in society with respect to policy and in creating enabling policies for more conscious consumption, for more, purposeful brands to even be built and thrive. How do you envision that role? And let's say you were in the policymaker's position, what would you do?
I think a lot has been done already. It started with the ban of single-use plastic and, EPR coming into effect, being mandatory for MSMEs. We're also, the top 1,000 listed companies are mandated to report on their ESG practices. I think there has been
the business. BRSR.
Yeah, BRSR. Yeah, definitely. So I think there has been a push by the government, and I think this is what really propels a lot of companies to make sure they have, their compliance. Compliance is first, right? So I think that has really pushed. But we're also seeing it go above and beyond. I think we do have a net zero target, and I would love to get your opinion on that as well. But we're also seeing push for millets. I think that is a big push that I've been seeing on my LinkedIn feed.
In fact, this is the year of the millet declared by the government, right?
Right.
So making things the year off or the month off always sets a really cool pattern in society.
Yeah, it does sound really cool. I would say that.
Because we love jingles. We love slogans. We love jingles. And it's great for mindshare creation, right?
Yeah.
People get aligned around and they're like, oh, this is the year of the millet, so let's eat millet. It's like, oh, this is the year of the millet, so let's grow millet.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think, in the budget, we saw really a huge push for lab diamonds. And of course, you all know the controversy with mine diamonds. And lab diamond does provide a more ethical and sustainable solution to an existing product in the market.
I didn't even know that it was actually included in the budget.
It was. There's been a big push for it. I think there's been a significant portion of the budget allocated towards the production of lab diamonds.
That's pretty cool. There'll be a lot of unhappy people in society, but all happier people, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think more than that, actually today, I think I was just seeing the news that Prime Minister Modi wore the sustainable jacket. I think I forget if it was made from recycled materials. So I think there is this signaling from him as well, this top-down approach that we are taking sustainability seriously.
Totally true. So look, it's all these sets, right? All these different stakeholders coming together to make value of good.
Yeah.
Reality, right? It's Gen Z people coming together to make value of good a reality. It's individuals like you and me, it's capital institutions, it's brands and enterprises, and then there's the government too. And all four kind of playing this dance now in this like movement, this large movement, and just like spiraling us slowly toward a cleaner, fairer, better, fairer future, right?
Yeah.
When do you think we get there? Like, at what point do you think as a society we can say we did good?
I don't know. Do you think we'll ever get there? Isn't there always better we can do?
Yeah, I fully agree, but I want to know, like, how do you know that we have done better?
I feel like we'll never know we've done better unless we're looking back. That's my personal opinion. I don't have like a certain, I guess, milestone in mind, but I do have high hopes for the future when I see, like you said, all oral care companies that you are working with are sustainability first. I do think that we are seeing a huge change from entrepreneurs who are pushing this, and it's inadvertently pushing like larger companies to do better. I think as a collective, when we can come together and think through solutions that to really, really hard problems like climate change, I think that is one way when we know we're making it, almost not made it.
Yeah, that's amazing. As an individual, are there any sustainable choices that you have made over the last couple of months or year or two?
I think I've stopped buying as many clothes as I used to.
Which is so interesting because you're actually on the fashion.
Yeah.
You're on the fashion end of Fireside, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think like that just exposes you to the reality a little bit more. But also I think like I've just
so cut what you can, right? You've cut down on whatever you could.
And when I can't cut, I really like thrifting. I just love the concept of it. And I think just beyond sustainability, I think it's really fun. It's more fun than just like shopping on a Zara app or something. I think that is definitely like something that I've inculcated in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, as Indians, we've kind of grown up a little bit with that. Like we didn't think of it as sustainability. We're always like switching off the light and like not overusing air conditioning or heater. I think that is something that we were born with, and I think now I've just become a lot more conscious of it.
Yeah, of like being conscious is a great first step.
Yeah.
Right, being aware, being conscious, and then wherever you can, just making that slight behavioral change, that behavioral shift. Saying, okay, if it's on, turn it off. Somebody else has left it on, turn it off. In fact, I remember when we were growing up in school, in classrooms, they would have those little signs, right?
Yeah.
If you're the last one in the room, turn the switch off.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And I think all around us in society, we've had those little nudges all across.
Yeah, like switch off the tap when you're like washing your hands or whatever it is.
In fact, we had EVS or EVE, right?
Yeah.
When we were growing up too. So we've always had some levels of influence, some level of education. A lot of people have had access to it in some form or the other. But now it's about making those behavioral choices. And to make behavioral choices, I think one is people having intent. And the other side of it is product builders and brands actually serving product with intent and ability and easy accessibility 100%. And economic viability.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
If that's missing, then the intent of a person just doesn't like go too far.
Yeah, definitely. I think what we need really is, I think the ownership lies on the brands to give that choice to the consumer for them to choose better, because there is, I think, intent on both sides. But I think like we need to marry the two.
Yeah, very powerful what you just said, right? So if the responsibility and the ability lies on the brand builder, because brands build products. Products are vehicles to like serve utility in society, right? So the products we build by purposeful brands then become a vehicle to lead us into a more harmonious nature, right? And harmonious.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's products that actually become the vessels, not just for serving utility, but for regenerating our planet also.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that so cool?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's like people are actually ready out there. I think we've definitely noticed that people are absolutely like intentionally ready. So many people are affected by climate change in some form or the other. Rising sea levels are slower, of course, but still like going to affect a lot of people. Heat waves, forest fires, locust attacks also, right? So many people
floods, everything.
I think people are ready. It's just a question of purposeful brands delivering it in efficient mechanisms.
Definitely. Really? How have you seen consumer behavior change, especially since you started Climbs? I'm sure it's been a journey of learning for you as well.
Yeah. So I think when we started a year and a half ago, there was already an upswing in people starting to want better in terms of consumption behaviors, right?
Yeah. And
we actually backtracked all the way to like the early 2010s, starting with a move toward like vegetarianism and veganism, and it's way before we came around. But that's actually the first instance of people wanting to be more climate conscious in some way. That was a small microcosm of society that started demanding that, saying, "Hey, we're going to move away from like meat and we're going to eat more, vegan food or vegetarian food." But that made more and more people aware that the choices we make can have an impact on the environment. Before that, it wasn't really a thing. Either we just had sustainable practices or we didn't. But the conscious choice kind of came around from, I think, the food alternative.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And then, very interestingly, like over a couple of years, it's that vegetarianism, veganism, conscious choice that started showing up in restaurants all around us. Right? So how did it start becoming mainstream? It's when mass society adopted it. Right?
Yeah.
And then from there, I think it went into choice number 2 and 3 and 4 and beyond. Like not drinking from a plastic straw, right? Small little nudge, but a lot of restaurants and a lot of cafes started getting on that bandwagon too. And then you can go on to small behavior number 3 and 4 and 5, specifically around waste, because waste is more tangible. Waste is something people can actually see.
Yeah.
So it went into packaging. People started demanding better in terms of packaging. And then cloth bags became a big thing, right? And bamboo toothbrushes, even though I completely disbelieve in that. Like, it's not going to make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Brushing your teeth with a bamboo toothbrush, it's a small little instance of products getting aligned better with, like, being able to be decomposable, be, more reusable rather than just a one-time use. And I think the wedge of waste then started trickling over into even like water and now carbon. So carbon's definitely the last set. Carbon's the hardest one also because it's the most invisible. You actually see it.
I was just going to say you can't see it, so it's the last.
So there's no way to even know, have you actually done something or not?
Yeah.
It's not at all tangible. So how do you turn something that's invisible, right? We call it a waste product. It's actually also the most useful product. Without carbon, we would not have an atmosphere. So it's a useful, wasteful product. It just happens to be in surplus. And now quantifying that, showing it to people, communicating it to somebody who's just like going about their normal life, that's hard stuff, right? And that's why Climbs exists. Because we realize we don't have a choice but to have to solve the carbon problem. Can we just rely on like big enterprises like your ex-employers, the oil companies of the world to do it? No, we can't. We're going to have to, put the power of choice into people's hands, like 100 million people, 500 million people globally. And that means figuring out a way to take this useful, wasteful product of carbon, communicating it in a way that's tangible, relatable, and then make people actually want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? And we've had such an evolution in that journey from a year and a half ago to now. In fact, when we first started, we said, okay, everything has a carbon footprint. Events, flights, food, fashion, personal care products, you name it, right? All of it has a footprint, so we'll show that footprint. That still continues to be the case. Like showing the carbon footprint as a first step It's kind of what Unilever also did, right? The true cost of products should be showcased. Let people then decide what they want to do. That has been very, very powerful. In fact, almost nobody has a problem with that.
Yeah.
Everybody appreciates being shown the true cost, right? So, okay, awareness is the first step. And amazingly, that's the first step to even any habit creation. If you want to start going to the gym, you have to be aware that you want to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Same with carbon. You've got to be able to show people that this exists. Everything you consume has a footprint. And then make it easily accessible, make it economically viable, and make it fun to do. That last set is really what clients decided to do too.
Yeah.
So make behavior change happen for this intangible object in a really easily accessible, economically viable, fun to do way. And when we started doing that and going down that journey, we realized people actually are happy to do it. It's just that the brands have to be willing to enable it.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've had 107,000 people till date participate, like buy at least one climate instrument. That's in India.
Wow.
Right? In India.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Such only price sensitive, nobody really cares. That's not true. Like people really, really care a lot.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you tap into behaviors that already exist? And the value of good that people already have instinctually within them? I think very few people are born evil. Right? Like mostly people are born good. And it's just a way of allowing them to practice that good. Right? So that's why like the clients learning, we've seen people are ready, brands, as long as they enable it, people do it and then brands get rewarded for doing so. And now, amazingly, like as of a month ago, we have evolved that model also quite a bit. We've now gone into a model where brands show the footprint. Brands actually gift back the credit to their users. Rather than saying, hey, you buy it, brands are buying it. Rewarding back their user with the choice of sustainable consumption. And the user is just like voting on where the financing in that instrument should go. Right? So now the brand's like involved in that journey with an individual. And that feels so much cooler.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys are doing some really great work. I've seen, the way you can explain this really intangible thing to some of our portfolio companies and do it in a way that makes the most sense to the company within their business mission, their business and their, vision, purpose as well. I think you guys are doing some really great work.
I mean, we've only just scratched the surface. We got a long way to go, but it is about taking the intangible, making it tangible, and then making it feel real. Like you, and not just by tapping into your guilt, right, as an individual, but tapping into your feeling of
humanity.
Yeah, of humanity and like being good, and maybe even like feeling, rewarded.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a really important part of it. Make people feel good. Don't make people feel bad all the time. And I think if we do that, lots and lots of people in society will participate. It's not just the India 1 alpha, as we call it, or India 1 and then India 2, right? It's all of it. It's Gen Z. Yeah, so that's some of our learnings in the last year and a half. I mean, if you ask me a short question, I'll give you a long answer. But yeah, we're pretty bullish on individual, intent.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's like individual actions that make that collective, and we really believe in the power of that collective. And like you keep saying, we need one champion, even if it's an organization. I think the power of the individual is extremely strong. Yeah,
the power of an individual in a household, the power of an individual in an in an office setting, the power of an individual in a financial institution, the power of an individual even in a government. One individual can actually move the world, That's definitely. Like strong leverage within that organization from the inside, changing it up, turning it into a Gen Z institution. And then imagine the ripple effect it has, right? Think about how Fireside, because you have sustainability in your DNA, is now influencing so many of your portfolio brands. Whether they had that in their DNA initially or not, influenced it even more, right? To the point where now new founders of building consumer brands are actually getting incentivized to do good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the power of an individual, and we really, really believe in that. I think it's the strongest force in the world after compound interest and gravity. And that's what we're here to unleash. Yeah. So to sum it up, what is your advice to the next consumer product founder who's just starting to think about what they should build, how they should build, been studying consumer patterns, looking around for what Indians want to consume, and they want to go and build it. What is your advice?
I think the biggest thing would be to have that higher purpose. I think that's something that most founders do. And I think it's to really articulate that and keep refining it as your business grows. I think your purpose beyond your customer, to your purpose to the entire your environment, your community, your employees, everything is really what is the driving force of your business. And we've seen that with multiple of our companies. More and more consumers will hold you accountable for your actions. So I think it's always important to think about it earlier rather than later. And I think our small plug here, but our ESG playbook is really helpful in thinking through building a sustainable business. And the sooner you start, I think the less overwhelming it feels, because it's been done by others and it can be done by you as well. And I think lastly, I would say that it's okay to not have everything done at first. Like a business, it's a journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it's important to really understand what is, speaking from a sustainability point of view, of what it is that you are doing, because I think then you can avoid claims of greenwashing or anything else that can backfire against your business.
Beautiful answer. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of new consumer good founders who are going to listen to that a couple of times, think of their businesses, from a sustainability in the DNA first approach, and hopefully build more iconic, purposeful brands of the future.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Vasudha, what a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for being with us today on the latest episode of The Voice of Gen Z.
Thank you for having me, Annie.
Yeah, what a fun conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.